it's Doris from Aldi Books, and I'm going to try the Try a Chapter book tag for the first time ever. I'm really excited. I'm going to do the Bailey's Prize edition. These are the 5 long-listed books that I currently have in my possession, and I'm going to read a chapter of each one and see which one I want to start first. And I'm going to look at them in order of when I discovered them and decided that I needed to own them. So let's get started. So the first one I picked up was Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeline Tien. This one was shortlisted for the Man Booker last year, so when I started watching YouTube obsessively, compulsively, what's the word we use? This one was everywhere, and I knew right away that I would love it. I really like Asian fiction literature, and this one was especially interesting to me because part of it talks about the Tiananmen Square massacre, and it's been a long time now, like 10 or more years ago, we had a Chinese exchange student at one of my high schools, and the history teacher, I just vividly remember this, said that the student got upset when they talked about the Tiananmen Square massacre, saying that it never really happened and it was American propaganda. It's just interesting to me to think about how history is taught around the world. But yeah, so this is 263 pages. The first chapter was 30 pages, so it took me a little while. And I'm excited to read it. I went to college in the early 90s, so I'm hoping there'll be some reminiscing for me in that. The main characters so far, there's a 10-year-old, maybe she's 12 now, little girl, and her mother, single mom, living in Canada, and they have now a 19-year-old Chinese student who is, I guess, basically a refugee from China living with them, and they're talking about the ties between their fathers. They knew each other back in China, and yeah, I think if you love music, you'll really love this book. One thing I think is fun about it so far is there are just a lot of little sections where they put visuals within the text, like here, if you could see, they've put Chinese characters and they're explaining the difference between modern Chinese and classical Chinese, I think they refer to it as. But yeah, so far it's mostly been set in the modern times, not any flashbacks or anything, although there was a retelling of a story about the 19-year-old's grandmother. So that's the first one. On to the second. So next we have The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. This one I think I saw maybe in December and immediately fell in love with the cover and was very happy to start seeing good reviews of it. Excellent reviews. It just keeps getting raved about. So the first chapter was 18 pages long, and there was a little prelude to it. So the intro was kind of a slightly gothic, dark of night, maybe introduction to the Essex Serpent. And then the first chapter jumped right into, well, it's a husband and wife, and the husband is dying of cancer. I think this is the late 1800s in Essex in England. And so it's just a very distant and casual introduction to the main characters. So the wife, Sarah, is it Sarah? I don't know, but the wife, and her friend, who was originally the boy's nursemaid as a baby, and she's never left. And then the child, the little boy, and the doctor is part of the story at the beginning, at least. And yeah, it's just from a distance, the view, like, very third person, and very kind of odd and quirky people. You can already tell that the boy and the mom are both little nature collectors, naturalists, and yeah, it's 418 pages, I think, long, and we'll see how it goes. So number 3 was The Mare by Mary Gateskill. This one is the one that I saw at Books A Million and never picked it up until it made the Bailey's long list, and then I snatched it up. I'm kind of surprised this one is a rare one in that I like the American hardback cover much more than the UK covers. Usually I prefer the UK covers. But this cover so beautifully matches the story thus far. It's just little snippets of beauty melded together. That's really what this story is. I only read, this one doesn't have like real number chapters. It just is one of those type that lists, is written from varying perspectives, and each chapter has just the person's name at the top who's telling that section. And so I just read the first 2. The first one is from the little girl's perspective. She's an 11-year-old living in the inner city, and she goes to spend a couple weeks of the summer with a family in upstate New York, more in the country, through one of those youth programs. And I feel like this book has an unfair advantage over the other 2. Like, I know the other 2 are amazing reads just based on BookTube reviews, and they're the style that I'm gonna love. But this one just really, it's written in first person, and just, I only read 9 pages and you immediately are immersed in the characters and their personalities. So yeah, this one is a strong contender, and it's 441 pages, so I have picked chunkers thus far for the Baileys. Number 4, The Power. This one I noticed from the Bailey's Prize long list. I hadn't ever really seen it before that, and it seemed very intriguing, especially after listening to some reviews. I don't know if they were really reviews, but just kind of introductions by people who were interested in reading them. And so I read, this one is also one where it just lists the person who's writing each chapter, or whose perspective it is in each chapter. And so I read the first 2, about 17 pages, and this is quite a bit darker than the others. A little bit fantasy element going on, but I guess maybe urban fantasy. You don't really know the setting very well. It's modern times so far, and I don't know yet if the girls are all in the same community or if it's worldwide. But the first one was a 14-year-old girl and her mother were in the apartment, and 2 men came in, and there's something going on between them and the father, and they're attacking the mom and locking the little girl up, and she uses the power for the first time. Yeah, it's pretty dark. And then the second one was a little more unsettling for me. It's a 21-year-old boy or man and a 17-year-old, and I guess they're in a college setting somewhat, and they're alone at the pool, and they're kind of flirting around, play fighting, and he's play acting that macho guy thing, holding power over her, and she's playing along with him, and then she uses her power on him to control him, and knows that she's doing it, and it's really kind of, yeah, it's a little sadistic feeling to me. So, yeah, it's very interesting. But I don't really know what's going on yet. I don't really understand it all yet, but intriguing. And this one is a little bit shorter than the others. I think it's about 333 pages or so. So we'll see. And number 5, The Sport of Kings by C.E. Morgan. This one wasn't on my original wish list for the Baileys, but I was drawn in by Simon from Savage Reads and Rincey from Rincey Reads, and so I ordered it, and I think it's going to be a good one. Historical fiction, and I'm not sure of the time frame yet. I think they mentioned maybe the 60s or 70s. Right now, it's when the main character is, it starts out when he's 7. This first chapter, well, the first chapter is 95 pages long, and I didn't read all that because I've got things to do. I read until about the 4th page break, so 23 pages. And it's kind of showing you how the boy was raised. So it starts when he's 7 and he's killed the neighbor's bull somehow with a firecracker, I guess. And the black manservant has tracked him down on a Tennessee Walker and taken him back to his father, who belted him to a whipping post and whipped him. And then the next section, you're introduced to his mother, who is, I guess, deaf. They speak with sign language, her and the boy do. And then there's this interlude where you learn the backstory of how the grandfather came to get the land in Kentucky. And then you fast forward to, I guess, the next year, and he's been spending a year working on the neighbor's milk dairy farm to work off the bull that he killed. And you meet the daughter there, who's also his age, and there's some interaction between the two. And jump forward to he's 11 and then 13, and the dad's trying to teach him how to drive, and he's not old enough to drive. It's not going very well. But through this all, like, especially with the interactions with his father and the interactions with the little neighbor girl, I originally said that this was about family and racism in class, and it's very much those things, but it's also on the role of women in society as well. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, because he's obviously being raised to think that blacks and women are mentally inferior and have their own roles in society. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how his thoughts develop on those two topics as an adult. Because from the Dust Jacket, I know that he works with his daughter to try to breed a racing champion, a thoroughbred. So obviously I think his thoughts have changed at some point. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm not gonna lie, it's very descriptive, and there were a couple sections where I did a little power skimming because it was a little too wordy. So yeah, let me think about this. Out of the 5 that I have to choose from, definitely The Power and The Mare are going to be the fast reads, and I pretty much set my heart on starting with The Mare. It really grabbed me more than any of them. And so then out of the slow reads, I know these are all going to be fabulous. I really did like The Sport of Kings, but I don't want to grab both the horse books at one time. And then out of the other two, I think The Essex Serpent would be a good diversion from The Mare, just vastly different. I like to read more than one story at a time. So I'm going to go with these two. I'm going to start those I don't know if I'll get them. Well, I've already started them. What am I talking about? Anyway, these are my next 2 reads that I'm going to get going with. And thanks for watching. And I'll be back soon. Bye.